The year is 1219. A single man's army has just crossed the impossible. 200,000 warriors, moving faster than any force in history. They don't stop to farm. They don't pause to forage. They don't even cook their food. They eat raw horse meat beneath their saddles. They drink mare's blood mixed with milk. And with this diet, this ancient, brutal fuel, they're about to conquer more territory than Alexander, Caesar, and Napoleon combined. His name was Temujin. The world would know him as Genghis Khan. And he might have been history's first carnivore. The Mongolian steppes, 13 million square kilometers of grassland where nothing grows but grass, where winter temperatures drop to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, where survival isn't just harsh, it's impossible, unless you know the secret. For over 3,000 years, the nomads of Mongolia built their entire civilization around one thing: animals. Not farming, not fishing, animals, horses, sheep, goats, yaks, camels. Everything they ate, wore, and used came from creatures that turned grass into protein. But young Temujin learned this lesson the hard way. 9 years old, father poisoned by enemies, cast out into the wilderness with his mother and siblings. No tribe, no protection, no guaranteed meals. In those brutal years, Temujin discovered what his descendants would never forget. Meat wasn't just food, it was power, it was survival, it was life itself. The boy who nearly starved would grow up to feed his armies on nothing but animal products, and those armies would reshape the world. By 1206, Temujin had united the Mongol tribes under a single banner. His new name, Genghis Khan, universal ruler, would soon be whispered in terror from Korea to Poland. But his secret weapon wasn't superior numbers. It wasn't better tactics. It was something much simpler. His army could move without supply lines. Picture this. Every Mongol warrior rode multiple horses. When one tired, he'd switch to another. When hungry, he'd cut a vein in his horse's neck, drink the blood, then seal the wound. The horse lived, the warrior was fed, and the army never stopped. They carried dried meat, borts, that lasted for months. They made cheese so hard it could be used as armor. They drank fermented mare's milk that provided calories, vitamins, and a mild alcoholic buzz for courage. Marco Polo, who witnessed this diet centuries later, was horrified and amazed. They will sustain themselves on the blood of their horses, opening a vein and letting the blood jet into their mouths, drinking till they have had enough, then closing the vein. While European armies required massive baggage trains, hundreds of supply wagons crawling across the landscape, the Mongols carried everything they needed on their bodies and their horses. They were mobile, they were fast, they were unstoppable, and they were powered entirely by animal products. Here's what modern science tells us about the Mongol diet. It was almost perfectly designed for extreme performance. Raw mare's milk contains every essential amino acid. Horse blood provides iron, B vitamins, and quick energy. Dried meat delivers concentrated protein with virtually no carbohydrates to cause energy crashes. Dr. Lauren Cordain, an evolutionary nutritionist, analyzed traditional nomadic diets and found something remarkable. These populations showed virtually no modern diseases. No diabetes, no heart disease, no obesity. Their teeth were perfect. Their bones were dense. Their endurance was legendary. Contemporary accounts describe Mongol warriors as lean, powerful, and capable of riding for days without rest. Persian historian Atamalik Juvaini wrote that they could live for a month on the milk of a single mare. But it wasn't just physical. The psychological effects were profound. When you depend entirely on animals for survival, you develop a different relationship with death, with dominance, with taking what you need to live. The Mongols didn't just eat meat, they became predators. Fast forward 800 years. Silicon Valley executives are eating nothing but steak for months at a time. Former vegans are posting before and after photos on social media, crediting carnivore diets with transforming their energy, their bodies, their minds. Sound familiar? The modern carnivore movement isn't exactly like the Mongol diet. Most practitioners aren't drinking horse blood or conquering continents. But the fundamental principle is identical. Eliminate plants, maximize animal products, and see what happens to your body and mind. Advocates report increased energy, mental clarity, improved sleep, and dramatic fat loss. Critics point to missing nutrients, environmental concerns, and long-term health risks. But here's the question that haunts both sides. If this way of eating could fuel the greatest military expansion in human history, What does that tell us about human nature itself? Because there's something we need to talk about. Something the carnivore influencers don't mention when they're selling their success stories. The Mongol diet didn't just create great warriors, it created the most efficient killers in human history. Genghis Khan's armies didn't just conquer territory, they systematically erased entire populations. Historians estimate that the Mongol conquests reduced the global population by 11%. 11% of all humans alive simply disappeared. Cities that resisted were wiped from existence. Civilians were slaughtered en masse. The Mongols killed so many people that vast regions returned to wilderness, actually reducing global carbon dioxide levels. Was their diet connected to their brutality? Did eating like apex predators make them act like apex predators? We can't know for certain, but we can ask ourselves, when we adopt the diet of conquerors, what else might we be adopting? Today, traditional Mongolian herders still follow versions of their ancestors' diet. They're among the few populations on Earth who have maintained their traditional way of eating for over a millennium. They're also among the few who remember what that diet was really about. It wasn't about optimization. It wasn't about performance hacking. It wasn't even about health. It was about survival in a world that offered no mercy to the weak. The modern carnivore movement takes the Mongol diet and strips away the context, the harsh winters, the constant threat of starvation, the life or death need for maximum nutrition from minimum resources. What's left is a dietary strategy divorced from the survival reality that created it. Maybe that's fine. Maybe we can take the benefits without the brutality. Maybe we can eat like warriors without becoming conquerors. Or maybe, just maybe, we should ask ourselves why we're so drawn to the diet of history's most successful killers in the first place. Genghis Khan conquered the world on horseback, powered by mare's milk and raw meat. 8 centuries later, we're still trying to figure out if we should follow in his footsteps. The question isn't whether his diet worked. The question is, worked for what? And what does that say about us?